Hello and welcome to Grotesque British Columbia, where we share both true and fictional stories of cryptids and the paranormal from here and in Canada and abroad. The Ogopogo. In the first few years of my life, I grew up in New Westminster in the mid to early 1990s. I remember when the city used to have the sea serpent medians on the side of the roads. My father pointed them out when I was quite young still, unaware that I would see one in reality. Beginning in 1994, my family would make yearly trips to visit my aunt on my dad's side out in Penticton. So my mom, dad, and sister would make the roughly 5-hour trip to the Okanagan, stopping for a lunch in Princeton before continuing to enjoy the scenery of the mountains and in particular Lake Okanagan. I still remember my father talking about the first time we made the trip out and mentioning the lake had a local indigenous legend known as Ogopogo, known to them in a translation being sacred being in the water. Some believed it still worked in the water, though he did not seem to believe in it himself. The next year's summer Penticton trip was in 1995. This time, however, something was off when we came around the bend in the road and saw the water. While on the road overlooking the lake, something seemed off about it, as if a malevolent energy had made the crystal blue water emit a dark hue. As I looked, I realized I was looking at a shape under the surface of the water, and an elongated shape seems to stretch out before disappearing to the bottom of the lake. I quickly announced in the car what I had seen, but my dad was driving, and my mother and sister said they never noticed. I was the only one who had seen it. I tried to spot it again, but it never reappeared, and the drive continued as normal. We made it to my aunt and uncle's home, enjoying the first night of our visit. The next day, after breakfast, my parents, aunt, and uncle decided we would spend a little time at the beach. After arriving, we enjoyed the sun and relaxing. Despite it being a Tuesday, the beach was quite busy. Me being a little nervous of the water after remembering the shape I saw the previous day, and having only just watched Jaws the Revenge, awful movie, just a few days previously, made me apprehensive of swimming that day despite my uncle's insistence. So I lingered nearby my family and only briefly got my feet wet at the edge of the water. There was quite a few people and boats in the water, but then it was as if something from out of a bad creature feature. I looked up in time to see in the distance a man sitting on the back of a speedboat when a reptilian-like head attached to a long body grabbed him around the waist and dived under the water before the driver of the boat even saw it. But he turned around confused, wondering what happened to his friend. I ran over to my family and told them what I saw, but they thought I was making things up until others pointed towards the boat. It happened so fast, most thought the man went overboard, while others claimed they didn't know what they saw. The man on the boat screamed out for his friend who he assumed had just fallen into water, and honked a boat horn for assistance. Soon other vessels got there and helped look for the friend. The beach was anxious with chatter as witnesses wondered what had happened and trying to make sense of what they saw. I tried to explain it, but my parents claimed I was just making it up and dismissed me as they watched the scene. Others looked at me with scorn, thinking I had made up such a grim and horrible end for the boater. But the man was not found, and soon police had arrived for statements and to begin searching the lake themselves. Soon after, we headed back to my aunt and uncle's place. I was told to stop making up stories about such a serious situation given the dangers of boating. The next day, news broke that the missing man's swimming trunks with a massive cut in it that ran from the center of the crotch and up through the top where the tie would be. Police investigations continued, but nothing further was found, and the man was assumed to be deceased after an unfortunate boating accident. The tear in the swimming trunks was assumed to be from a boat propeller or rocks. In interviews, people hinted at Ogopogo being the culprit, but I suspect that they were kidding and not wanting to be ridiculed for claiming to have seen a local legend. The remaining 4 days of our Okanagan trip went normally before our departure back home. While it was labeled an accident, and with other unknown disappearances and cases of the area, I know what I saw, and I know others saw it too. I never saw the Ogopogo again on future trips to Penticton before we stopped going there a few years later due to my aunt and uncle being unavailable, enjoying retirement vacations around the continent. But perhaps I will make it back for nostalgia and relive memories, and maybe I'll see the serpent once again, since alleged sightings happen to this day. To be continued. Rest in peace, Dad.